6:30. Today we are in a budget workshop. Let me sort of set the parameters for everybody. Number one, I want to thank Dale and the auditor's office, Steve, and the resources for a lot of work to get us where we are today. We've been meeting a lot over the last 2 or 3 weeks together, and there's a lot of work in here. What we'd like to do today, Commissioners, is take our time. We're not in any hurry. I'd like to take each page that we have here and let people talk about that so you'll all know exactly where we are. We don't expect to make a lot of decisions today, but we want to try to get you as informed as we can and answer all the questions that you might have. So we'll be able to have further discussions later on. Commissioner Pusley's. We'll be able to have further discussions. Oh my gosh. Is that God or? Oh my gosh. Commissioner Pusley's sister-in-law passed away suddenly. Mike, we're very sorry to hear that. I know Norma has had a rough week with the family, and our prayers are all with your family, and I think that funeral is tomorrow. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, fine. All right, let's go to page under tab Table of Contents, please. There is a table of contents that shows where everything is. You can refer to that as we go along. We will come back to that from time to time. Under tab 1 is the budget planning calendar. I understand we may have a little bit of a conflict as we move forward on a couple of dates, but we're going to try to stay with this as best we can because we do have some timing issues that we have to do certain things in accordance with truth in taxation. Yes, Steve.
I'd like to,
right here on tab 1.
if I could, Judge, I'd like to just quickly go through our August Commissioners is really our full month that we really have a lot of things we have to do because we can't start this stuff until we have defective tax rates. So we have this budget workshop scheduled for today and tomorrow, the 7th and 8th. But on Wednesday, our regular meeting, we will receive the effective tax rate calculation from the auditor and the tax office. And then, next week, again, we have on the 14th and 15th, we've scheduled workshops. And again, that depends upon how far we are down the line and, is what we need to do because we have to have, to stay on our schedule, we have to have made some decisions by the 15th because on the 16th is the date that the court has to decide whether we're going to increase or not increase taxes. And the reason we need to make that decision then, because if you're going to increase taxes, then we have to post and have hearings, etc. So this part of our whole agenda is pretty firm. I think the rest of it you have there, but I just wanted to reiterate what we have for the next two. We have 2 courts in a row because we have things to deal with on the thing there. So that's
very good. Okay, I want to ask, the calendars are all there behind the schedule. You can look at those as you choose. That's good work. I'm going to take the general fund revenue, and the auditor is going to walk us through page 1 under tab 2, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is our revenue summary for our fiscal year 16-17 with proposed budget of 17-18. You'll see 5 columns. You'll see estimated actual column is the first column. That's our estimated for this current fiscal year. The second column is our current budget that was adopted by court last fiscal year. We have a column that we say over and under budget, which means if the revenue came in above budget, it'll be over, which is always good. Anything under will be, of course, where we need to look into and possibly research. And then proposed budget that my office is going to be proposing for the next fiscal year. I will start at the very top of that page. We'll start in column 1. You'll see our current ad valorem taxes. Right now, we're estimating a collection of $66,023,260. If you compare to the next column below, beside it is $65,885 was the budget. So we are estimating an overhead budget of $138 84, which is good. And this does represent the Valero refund that we had last fiscal year. The next item is our delinquent tax that we also get from our tax assessor as well as our delinquent tax attorneys. We're estimating 1.3 million. We budget 1.4, it looks a little under, but that's about where we've been averaging, so we keep the number there. The collections are where they are, and we've been very good on our collections the last several years. We've been right at 97, 98% of collections, so our delinquents amounts are down, so we would expect that to maintain where they are. The next item is our penalties and interest on the over balances of our ad valorem, and we're estimating about a $703,000 estimated actual, so that's around $3,000 over budget, which is good. So for total property taxes, we're estimating $68,107,358, or $122,182 over budget. Do we have any questions on ad valorem?
Y'all said you're gonna go slow. What page did you jump to?
I was on page 1,
Page 1.
very top.
Okay. Tab 2, page 1.
It's the property tax of the ad valorem, which is the very top three rows of page 1. The next one was considered over other taxes. We have what we collect in bingo tax. We estimate $392,434, and our budget $309,000, so we're at $2,434 over. Our occupancy tax and coin machines that we have throughout the county, we have $17,408 estimate on $18,000 budget, slightly under, which but still viable. The next one is VIT tax. VIT means vehicle inventory tax, which is the tax that the assessor collector can charge on the vehicles that are on the car lots at the time. We're estimating $33,750, a budget of $45,000 or $11,250. We've been talking to the tax assessor collector. That number has gone down slightly, and so as you'll see when we do the next year's budget, we're dropping that slightly down to 35 to cover that balances. And that would be our other taxes that we have. Next item is fees of office. Fees of office are combined of several items. There are clerk fees, our serving paper fees, our archive fees, record management fees, dispute resolution fees, and other fees that we have, and we consolidate those together. For the first one, we have the County Clerk Collection Division. We're at $237,760 estimate on a budget of $320,000 or $82,000 on the under budget, which is something we're continuing to look at. For the district clerk, we showed $1,132,378 on a budget of $1.2 million, or a slight decrease of $67,622. For the county clerk the regular office is $1,545,750 on a budget of $1,350,000. So they're over, which is good, of $195,750. For all of our justice of the peace, we have justice of the peace. If we go to the total of the justice of the peace, we're showing for all the justice of the peace are $788,478 on a budget of $761,000 or $27,478. Now there are a few of the JPs that are slightly below, and we'll make those adjustments next year. That'd be JP 1-2 is around 137. They've been averaging about 130, 140, so we'll be dropping their budget as we're showing on that matter. For the sheriff's office, we're estimating $66,341 on a budget of $70,000, so they're slightly below, but that's still relatively close. For all the constables, we're showing $34,266 on a budget of $32,600, or slightly over of $1,666. So there will be no change in that. So our total fees of office at the very bottom of the page, which summarizes all of them together, is $3,804,973 on a budget of $3,733,600, or over budget of $71,373, which is very, very, very good. Now we'll go to page 2.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. So, on collections, we look at collection fees at the different clerk offices, and I know county clerk is split, so it's kind of tough to judge. But based on that and what the numbers we show for district clerk, why is there less? Was there because there were fewer fees that were needed, or is this something that is not being collected, or why would we see a drop like this?
Well, on you gotta remember, there is a division between the collection department and the county clerk. The county clerk has your clerk fees, your record management fees, and all that. Well, the collections division are a very small number of fees that they can charge. And as you'll see later on in our fines, the collections have gone down some, so their fees that they can charge have gone down. So that was an item we were looked at too, and we saw that it's been averaging about 240 or 230 throughout the whole last 4 or 5 years. And that's why you'll see that we're estimating a reduction in the budget for next year.
That we will?
Yes.
That we will, okay. Because that was going to be my next question for JP 12, at $12,000 difference, so that because there's such, what is considered significant? Because I know you mentioned for sheriff that, that was an amount, but it didn't seem like you had said that they were going to take any hit for that. Is that correct?
Well, this is kind of a little bit where we look into what affecting this year, and then we look at the last 3, 4, 5 years and do trends on where we see the collections are, how the collections are coming in, pluses or minuses. And we've been seeing that the JP 12 has been averaging around 130, 140. And mostly likely closer to 135. And we've had a budget for 140 for a while, so we thought 140 is probably not really reachable. So for this particular item, it's not really a concern. It's just that it was over budget to begin with, so we're trying to adjust a little bit to cover their average throughout the number of last 5 years.
So it's not really so much a hit on them for not collecting, it's more they're just not reaching those numbers, so
Correct.
let's adjust accordingly to
Correct.
show a more realistic budget.
Correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
Dale, on the JP's, the revenue side here, does that include any of the funds that are collected and I guess really for any of the departments that get sent on to Linebarger, does that get folded into this number?
The Linebarger are most likely fines, and fines is another section of the report.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
On the other taxes?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, where did I see it? On fees and fees of office, you have 67,622 under. How come that wasn't moved over like the rest of them? All the rest of them, they're under, move over to the right.
Well, they're averaging. This last year was kind of a downturn because they've gone through a lot of stuff in the district clerk's office with our e-filing and stuff. So this last year was kind of a fluke. They've been averaging from the last 4 or 5 years 1,200,000, 1,190,000. So my staff and I didn't think it was a continuance of that low, so we didn't feel it was necessary to reduce the budget. Because and they've been seeing a lot of increase with the e-filings and a lot of stuff they have to do in work-wise, so they've kind of been spending a lot of their resources and time on getting that caught up to them. That's why they were a little bit down this year, but it hadn't been a trend.
Okay. So everything is moved to the right, it's going to be a indication of a reduction?
Correct.
Okay.
Rejected, yes, sir. On page 2, as Commissioner was asking about, this is where we've seen a slight decrease, well, more than a slight decrease. The last few years, we've seen a significant drop in the amount of collections we've had for fines and fees. As you'll see, as we go through each, the County Clerk's Collection Division, we're estimating $625 on a $750,000 budget, so they're $124,000 below budget. For JP 11, $97,425 on a $130,000 budget, and they're below a $32,575. And those are the two largest ones. The next one would be JP 21, and they're about $29,570 below budget. If we go to the bottom of fines and fees, we're estimating $1,540,264 on a budget of $1,785,000. Or below budget of $244,736. So with that in consideration, my staff, we lowered the budget last year for this particular item. It was close to almost $2 million, so we dropped it down to $1,700,000. We feel closer that the $1,595,000 would be the total budget we're requesting. So as you see, we're reducing the budget for fines and fees of $190,000. there any questions on find the fees? Our next one is licenses and permits that we have. The road crossing permits and other permits that are here is $115,383 on a $120,000 budget, which is $4,617, but we're still going to keep the budget at $120. Motor vehicles, which is a few items, but the biggest one is the sales tax we're able to collect from the state on sales of the vehicles. We're estimating $4,571,000 on a $4,100 budget, or $471,500 over budget, which is very promising. We see that number continuing. On intergovernmental revenue, this is a combination of several that we get.
Dale?
Yes, sir.
So if you see that continuing, why do we have that budget number?
Talking to the tax assessor collector, this is always a number we need to keep an eye on. This is a sales tax we have coming in, and do we expect the trend to continue, or do we expect the trend to fall short? And the tax assessor believes that it's going to be continuing about where it's at, maybe a little bit less than what it was. So we don't want to inflate the number too high and then come way under budget. So for this particular item, we think it's more realistic to stay where we're at on that particular item. And as we'll talk about later, a lot of this sales tax gets transferred to the road fund.
Okay.
Our next level is called intergovernmental revenue. That's where we get our salary reimbursements, the amount we get for the indigent defense grant, our state alcohol beverage tax, reimbursements from the jury, our hazardous waste management, the tax collection of our tax assessor able to collect for all 32 taxing entities of the county. And the other intergovernmental revenue is state and federal grants that we're able to receive throughout the year. The one item I would like to let you know is the one on jury, which is the third one down. We're estimating $251,325 on a $320,000 budget, which is a drop of $68,000, but we kind of expected that with all the online enrollment. We're seeing our jury costs go down, so if our jury costs will go down, our reimbursements will also go down. So we're dropping that slightly. This will be more, it'll probably be more than that next year, but we're just going to make sure this was the first year starting, and we know some of the other courts are starting to bring this more into life, so we'll keep an eye on that particular item. So for total intergovernmental revenue, we got $5,444,228 estimate on a $5,295,000 budget, or over a budget of $145,288. Do we have any questions on intergovernmental revenue?
Yes, I do. Why is the Agua Dulce building included?
That's we get reimbursements for that particular building from I can't remember who we get reimbursements for. It's the utilities that they get reimbursed for.
That's the only reason why they're on there and none of the other buildings.
Right. We get reimbursement, I think, from one of the.
I think it's from the
Probably the city. Someone reimburses us for utilities, and that's what the only reason it's on there for.
They use part of the building.
Correct.
city has.
Seguid All Industry.
And
And they just reimburse us for the utilities.
And so, and then going down to the jury reimbursement, like you said, I mean, I guess over time, we expect this to continue, that number to continue draw down.
Well, we just recently started with
Right.
Commissioner Pusley's assistance on online enrollment.
Right.
And we've seen the cost of our jury gone down significantly. I think our costs are at least $250,000 or $300,000 less than what they have been. So with that cost going down, we're estimating that the cost that we have to reimburse from the state is also going to be going down, because the reimbursement we get is from those that are here more than one day. So if we don't have to pay the jurors 2 or 3 days to sit here before they even get paneled, then that's going to reduce our costs and reduce the amount that we have to reimburse from the state. So we expect that to go down, and it has, and we're seeing good things out of it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is our housing of inmates for the sheriff's office, which is federal inmates, and our juvenile department, which is the Alley County. We're estimating a total of $658,455. After talking with a few people and Steve on this, is that may be a little high. Right now, I don't believe we have any federal inmates in our county jail, and we haven't had them for a while, so that number may be a little bit on the high side. As you'll see, the budget of $800,000. So right now, with the estimates of $141,555, and because we're making that assumptions, right now, we're talking with the sheriff and Steve and the judge as well, we're not going to budget anything next year for the federal inmates coming into the county. So we're reducing that by $450,000. And the juvenile just went through a revamping of their organization. They went from boot camp to a post-adjudication type of situation, and they're estimating their revenue will be right at $300,000 to $340,000. So we're going to lower their budget slightly to $300,000 just to make sure that this first go-round is available for there. Any questions on housing of inmates?
Yeah, let me talk about that. Steve and I met with the sheriff last week, and while they have been approved by the state jail standards people that they can go back into business and do everything else, the sheriff is of the opinion that he cannot take any federal inmates for the foreseeable future because of the pending changes in the law that the legislature passed. What is the lady's name that they just passed the law? The lady that got killed over in Jasper County. They passed a new law that has a lot of additional stuff in it, particularly dealing with mental health and how quickly they have to have people evaluated and how long they're going to have to be able to hold them and all the other things. And so the sheriff is of the opinion that he will not have any federal inmates in the jail for the foreseeable future. So I'm asking you all, draw a circle around that. That $450,000 is a huge number as we move forward. So we'll be coming back to that when we get a little farther in the budget. We were very hopeful the sheriff would say, I can start bringing some of these people back, but he just said, I can't do it. And so that's where we are. And so that's where we are right now.
Tell me that again, why he...
There is a new law, and it's, I can't remember the lady's name. It was passed. It doesn't go into effect completely for another year, but they have to start beginning to get ready for all of this. And it's going to take, in his opinion, it's going to take a longer time in the holding cells. And that was what he got criticized for, was keeping prisoners in the holding cells more than 48 hours. And so he's looked at his jail population. It's still very high. And when we get farther in the budget today, we'll show you some things that judges want to do, and we hope that's going to help. But he just flat said, I cannot tell you I can take any federal prisoners back.
So his interpretation is based on a legal interpretation.
Yes.
So have we asked the county attorney for an advisory as to, I mean, you know, I'm a lawyer and I wouldn't make a legal interpretation for my office, and with respect, the sheriff's not a lawyer, so should we not ask the county attorney for an advisory on that to say you can or you can't? And if
Doesn't do
you
any
say,
good. If he says no, it's no.
well, but then it's a different issue. I mean, if he's saying no because of a policy issue, then
Well,
that's a different thing. If he's saying now no because he thinks it's a legal issue, maybe if he got an advisory that said it's not a legal issue, and it might say it is. I mean, I don't know. If it does, it does. If it says it isn't a legal issue, that might change his mind. I mean, might not, but shouldn't we at least ask? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, we can,
Because it's a big revenue piece of.
but it's still between he and the federal marshals.
I understand, but I don't,
Yeah.
if he's hanging his hat, no pun intended, our sheriff with his hat, on a legal issue, I get that. I understand his concern. I think it's a valid concern. If he thinks legally he shouldn't be doing it, but if we give him an advisory that says legally you can do it, it's just now a policy decision, well, then he can at least have something to say to people if he thinks he's going to get criticized. I've been told legally I can do this. I'm just throwing it out there for.
Yeah, we can look at that, and we will.
Well, I think, as the judge said too, is I don't know even if it's a legal issue. It's a matter of the fact that the amount of time people are in the holding cells. That's the issue that he really has. And then he has all these people come in. He has to classify them and now additional classifications. But it's a combination of getting the people out of the holding cells is really the,
No, and I get it, but we're also working, or the judges are also working on a plan to get that down. So if we can help accommodate his concerns on two fronts by saying, okay, the legal opinion says you're good, and the jail population's going down, then we might be able to help him. If the jail population goes down, but he continues to think he can't legally, well, then we're in a little bit of a box and we didn't ask. So I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, I think we ought to at least ask Laura for an advisory and say, you know, if he's right legally, then so be it. I don't want to do anything that's anywhere close to illegal.
We'll ask her.
Okay,
So
thank you.
with this change in the law, then, I guess this is going to impact other counties? Is that-
Everybody,
Everybody.
Well, because all about the timing then.
it's time.
Another one of those wonderful unfunded mandates.
Well, yeah, and what is that lady's name? I'll think about it in a minute. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I can't think of her name.
So, Your Honor,
Yes,
along with that, and maybe we're going to discuss this
Yes.
later, and I don't want to jump ahead if we are, but, you know, we based our ability to expand the McKenzie Annex on the fact that we would be able to bring in additional federal prisoners to help pay for that.
right,
Is that now going to impact that project?
yes.
Okay.
And
We'll talk about that more, or?
Yeah, where are we going to go with that? That's a good
Yes.
question. Maybe we need to stop.
The McKenzie Annex will not open until January, February of 19.
We've already passed the 1900s.
No,
2019.
2019.
Right, so I guess that has to come into this budget discussion at some point, I'm sure. I'm not trying to jump it, but if
Yeah.
it's coming in, then let me know. But obviously,
Yeah.
if that is the case and that's going to do it, then we may need to reassess whether we open that annex at some point, because that's going to
It
be...
won't be in this budget year.
Okay. Good, all right, that's fine. You're right, 19,
Won't
fair
be in-
enough.
It will not be in this budget year.
Okay, but we need to look at that, because if
Oh, believe me, I have.
I know you have. I mean, and that was a big
We
part
have,
of the
I
sell
have.
on this, was that we'd be able to bring federal prisoners in to
It
pay
was,
revenue.
it's a big deal, Brent, and
Yeah, I mean, it's potential.
but it won't
loss.
be in this budget year. We're not going to make it.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. But it's a great question. You know, these are things that I want you all to ask, because we need to have this discussion very openly, please.
But I know that the opening of that would not happen in this budget year, but we had some significant expenditures that we had, I guess, started, or where are we at in that? I guess we, know that
Construction.
yeah, they've started some. The real thing, the holdup was they had to move the Sheriff's Patrol Division out of the McKenzie Annex portion, and they haven't been able to move them out there. We had to redo spaces for them in the CSCD area over at the annex. So they're in the process of doing that right now. And the latest, as the judge said, the latest meeting we've had is, the estimate is for completion of the whole project isn't until January 2019. They have started doing some soft demolition over there, but they can't do a lot until they get the patrol's position out of there.
And we ran into structural problems. We ran into
Asbestos.
We ran into almost anything in the world that could go wrong in that old building has gone wrong.
Well, you know, Judge.
Yep.
Steve, with his answer, brings me to another question on that, because, and I was 100% in support of this new jail thing and pushed real hard for it, like the rest of the court did. And as you said, it's not going to be in the 19 budget, but the money that we have set aside for COs is certainly being spent, and maybe we need to review the spending of some of that money until we can get this figured out, because if we haven't started full speed ahead on construction and all we've done is a little soft demo, then maybe we need to revisit the whole spending our CO money. And, you know, because I can see where this budget's going, and it isn't going in the good direction. I mean, all we're doing is looking at revenue losses so far. Maybe it'll get better when we go down the road, but yeah, as Dale says, no. So, I mean, maybe we need to rethink that CO money that we committed and put that back in the pot or something. I don't know. I mean, this is a big deal.
Well, we're still under the mandate to expand this jail as well, and we do have a contract on that. We can look at that.
I'm just-
we can look. No, it's a valid question, and believe me, we've had that meeting with the sheriff a lot.
Are we under contract for construction of the whole
Yes,
thing?
yes,
Yes, we are.
yes, we are.
And
But-
one of the things, Commissioner, is fortunately through this 7 years with the judgeship, we haven't paid a dime for putting inmates in other facilities.
Right.
But we've come close to it, and
Right.
if we continue at the level here, there, when you start putting them in other facilities, it's
No, I get it. I'm not, again, I will reiterate, I was and continue to be 100% in support of this expansion because I think it's a need. At the same time, we factored in a significant portion of that expansion being revenue from the federal prisoners. That was clearly articulated, that was clearly discussed. It's in the legislative intent when we created this. And if that's going to go away, not just kind of, but this is looking like going away completely, then if the circumstances have significantly changed and the sheriff's in a box because of that, I don't want to put us or him in a box, whoever, the sheriff is 6, 8, 10 years from now either, to be running this big old facility and having no income coming in from federal prisoners because we legally can't. So I think we at least ought to have a discussion about it just because I'm very nervous about spending that money, and I'd rather pay a breach of contract fee than pay, $2 million that we're talking about for that expansion? I mean, I'd rather pay, there's got to be some, they haven't started other than soft demo. If we got to pay a breach fee, that's going to be a lot less than $2 million. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm a little concerned about this.
Good point.
Okay, to finish up on page 3, the very top is charges for services. Charges for services are covering, again, the cumulative total of a lot of items. Those are your failure to appear fees, your tax collection fees, your certification fees, other charges for services. We're estimating $483,621 on a budget of $500,000, so slightly under $16,379. We didn't feel a change was necessary because of the trend that we've been seeing. It's still around the $500,000 for where we're at. The one good point is the next item is interest investment income. We're at $198,422 or on a $100,000 budget, or $98,000 over budget. And we see this continuing with the investment committee and allowing the county to start investing in municipal bonds and other bonds that are bringing in higher rates of return. We're able to see a larger increase in our interest income coming in, and we see that trend continuing. So we're going to raise our budget for interest income by $100,000 to make it around $200,000 annually. The next item is rental commission. The biggest part of our rental commission is the telephone commission that we get for the inmates at the jail. When they call out for any particular reason, they're charged a fee, and we're able to under a contract, keep part of a revenue that we have with a company we have, and that's right about $600,000 a year. So we're estimating $682,000 in estimated revenue on a $410,000 budget, or $272,000 budget. And because we saw the FCC is not going to change the rules and take this money away from us, so we're going to go ahead and increase the budget by $200,000 to get it up to $610,000.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
A little good news.
Little good news. The next item is refunds and reimbursements. These are items that we get small refunds for. Our workers' comp, when we have workers' comp claim, we get some reimbursements. We never know any balances, so we don't ever budget anything for it, but we are expecting $555,000 of revenue. Other refunds are just normal refunds that we might get for if someone goes somewhere and we get refunds for it, we place it there. So we're estimating $23,477, or on a $25,000 budget, which is very, very, very close to where we need to be. Court-appointed attorney reimbursements are ones we receive actual from the defendants that are assigned to court-appointed attorney. They do pay us back sometimes, and we get a small amount, so we're estimating $121,385 on a budget of $130, or slightly under of $8,615, and we didn't feel any adjustments was necessary for that. The last income source we have is other income. We're able to sell maps, other certificates we have in the county clerk's office, district clerk's office, and we expect $11,310 coming in on a $12,000 budget, or $690. Our copy machine fees is when someone comes in and copies something for an individual, we charge them a certain amount of fee. We're expecting $21,094 on a $19,500 budget. And miscellaneous revenue is just other miscellaneous items that don't really have a place in there, and I can go through those if you need to, but they're a long list. We're estimating about $135,211, a $100,000 budget, or $35,211. So for the county, our total revenue before transfers is $86,363,968 on a budget of $85,568,276, or right at $795,710 above budget. We're transferring, we estimate the same amount that we're coming in for transfers of what was budgeted on the item. So our total revenue coming in is $87,629,759 on a budget of $86,834,049, or $795,710. Our fund balance coming from the prior year was $22,001,630. So our estimate of available resources is $109,631,391. Do we have any questions on revenue?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned on the miscellaneous revenues, a long list. Can you kind of generalize what that is? Because that's a pretty good chunk of change, considering that they don't have any real certain category to fall under.
Well, we call it miscellaneous revenue, but it's more really other income. It's photo ID charges, private funding grants, graffiti eradication, farm what's coming in. I can provide you a longer list if you'd like.
Yeah, if you could, just
Sure, no problem.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll get you a list of that. Those are the bigger ones that we usually have coming in. So, but for available resources for the county for our fiscal year is $109,631,391. Probably. 2018 year, yes.
2018, 2019.
Yeah. Or 17-18, we're in 17-18, yes.
See, I lose track. This is 17-18 coming up. Okay.
Right, and as you'll see it on the very right-hand column, I'm estimating, without any adjustments for taxes, I'm reducing our revenue by $500,000.
Right. So, with the bottom line total available resources will be $6.3 million, almost $6.4 million less.
Yes, correct.
And we took that out of fund balance.
Yes, sir.
And that number, folks, really gets large as we move along.
When we get to the appropriations.
That number is we'll be coming back to that number often today.
So,
Yep.
So you're saying right now, the $6,396,858 is really, we're actually going to be in the hole in that, right?
Well, if we haven't got to the appropriations yet, but if you look at the fourth column, towards the very bottom, you see fund balance beginning. That's kind of where we're estimating our fund balance for the end of the fiscal year 16-17. We're estimating $18,543,148, and theoretically, that's about a $3 million balance adjustment from the estimated actual fund balance on the far left.
so the majority of that $6.4 million is the fact that our fund balance is going to reduce.
Correct.
And we took the Valero payment out of the fund balance this year. So that was a $1 million hit or whatever the hell it was.
That's already been.
That's out.
Yeah.
but it's reflected here,
Okay.
but it's out.
That's why we have that
Yeah,
large.
it's out. Okay, that's the auditor's part. Keep going.
One of the things, Your Honor, at the
Yeah.
end of the day,
Yeah.
and this is down the
Please.
road in our tax process, is, Dale, I would hope that we would be able to show if this county has to increase taxes because of these big $1 million deals we have to keep rebating to refineries, how much the tax increase costs them, because they are the largest taxpayer usually in everybody's budget, and how much net to them those rebates come out to be.
I think we're going to be able to back into that in a little bit. I think we'll have some, I think we'll be able to help you do that in a minute.
Good.
Since I
Yeah, please,
came in, what,
please.
I know the CCISD, they took the largest hit in the entire county, and I know that number. But what was our number that we took a hit on from the Valero reimbursement settlement?
Roughly, I think it's around $800,000.
Right at $1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually think it was a little bit less for this year. I think it was only around
Yeah, it's
650,000 or
around
something.
600,000-700,000, somewhere in there.
Is that total? Total?
Yes, well, you do have a general fund portion, and then you have a road and bridge portion, but the road and bridge portion is very small
A
comparatively.
small debt service portion of it as well.
It was less than $1 million total that we took a hit?
Yes.
Thank you.
This year.
For this year.
Okay.
The previous year, we had reserved that.
Yes.
And
What was
so,
that? So what was just the total of everything that we've had to reimburse?
The first year was a 3-year settlement. We had to refund $1.2 million, and our refund, the prior year from last year was about almost another $1.2 million. So it was almost 2.4.
Almost
I mean, 4.
2.4 total?
4 total, yes.
Plus the 800,000 this year?
Plus this year is 800,000, yes. 6 to 800,000, yes.
So 3,
little over
a little over 3?
3 million, yeah. And John, unlike the schools, we don't get any help from the state to put that back. It comes right off the bottom line. Okay. That's it?
That's it for tab 2.
Okay. Steve, would you start under tab 3, please? And
That's me.
is that still Dale?
That's still me.
Okay, Dale, get after it.
I'll let Steve do it. You want to do this, Steve? Okay, and let's have some fun. This is only now 4 columns, again, the same columns. We're including last year's actuals, so you can see kind of some values on it. We have estimated actuals is your second column, your budget, your third column, and then over and under budget is your last column. Here, under budget is good, over budget is bad, and you'll see a lot of the bad coming through this. I can provide you a detail of any of these you want. These are summaries of each department.
Yeah, I'd like to know why I'm over.
Nope, you're not over.
You're under by 19.
You're over by 5. You're under budget by 5,018.
Oh, those.
Parentheses mean that.
Parentheses,
Yes.
sorry, my bad.
So how does this correspond with the reports that you give us where we're, my concern is because of the numbers, the way they've adjusted since I came on a few months into the budget already, and then there was, kind of shows my office as a top spender or whatever, and I know you broke it down into tiers as based on importance or value to the budget itself, but so was that all still just a precursor or just a warning just to be careful, and does that transfer to these numbers, or is that something totally different?
Well, no, the monthly financial report is these numbers. The monthly financial report goes into a little more detail of the budget to these. Like I said, these are department summaries. So it'd be your total budget for the entire budget for that. And as you were saying, Commissioner, the departments as yours are small because you only have you're in your own, and your assistants only employees, and then a small amount of staff. So if you spend 100% of your budget for salaries, you're going to be top spender pretty much all the time. And we expect that out of small departments. And so that's why when you first came in, I said it's really not alarming, because yours, if you all of a sudden need supplies and you buy it all at once, well, then that's going to throw you high because you don't have any other budget other than those small amounts. But we'll go through each of these in item, and I'll kind of hit the ones that are over, and then we can go through the balances. For y'all particular items, Commissioner Pussy, you're 19,584 under budget, which is very promising. 236 for Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Mize, you're at $3,046 under, and Commissioner Chesney, you're at $5,818 under budget.
And remember, those are based on estimates.
Based on estimates, yes.
That's based on estimates.
Now, we take our estimates, we start in June toward July, we run the balances for the 8 months. We compare them to the last 3 or 4 years to see if there's anything, any of the alarming that may show a real big increases. And then we kind of go through and try to estimate what the remaining balances are. And we always, my staff and I are always know that when these alarming things coming up, we always kind of know some before anybody else that when something alarming is going to come up, and we kind of factor those in. But we didn't see anything in those particular items. The first one that we show that's a little bit over budget is the county attorney. Budget of $1,563,000, and we're estimating $1,563,000 on a $1,560,000 budget, or only small $2,294. The election division, we kind of knew this was coming because we never really budgeted anything for any election costs. They're over budget of $108,923, but that's not really alarming because we didn't do that in the past, but we're going to be talking about that coming up soon. So if we go towards the bottom, you'll see total general government, and as you see, your commissioners are there, the judge, Steve's office, my office, grants administration, county attorney, county clerk, tax assessor, IT, human resources, purchasing and veteran services are all part of this department, our function. We're estimating $15,779,741 in estimates on a $19,155,000 budget, or under budget of $3,375,431. So for the general government, it's showing pretty promises. Just to let you know, the one that we're talking about on appropriations that we set up aside for the Valero and also anyone coming soon, it's in part Department 1285, and we can talk about that later. I think Steve has some information on that at a later point in time, but the department was 1285.
So information technology came in over $500,000 under budget.
That is correct.
So far, that's the largest one I see.
And they had a lot of vacancies at the very beginning of the year. A lot of their reductions was because of the salaries they weren't able to fill at the very beginning.
Okay. Explain to me what happened on the election expense, because I thought that was a zero-sum game.
Our election expense is where we do our elections. We've been working, Steve and I and Kara, and before Kara was Mrs. Barrow on some election costs. We never could really factor in what the election costs were, so we really never put the county share of election costs into a budget item. We'll be talking about this year about doing that particular item. So for this particular reason, we didn't really budget a expense for election costs, so that's why it's showing a small amount overage. Now, these are your adopted budgets. We've already factored this in on our working side of it, but for the adopted budget, that's where it was at.
And Commissioner, this is the county share of the big pot. You know, when you send the bill to the city, well, county gets a share of that also. So that's what this is.
This is our share.
Yes. Okay. Like last November was $174,000. Yes.
You know, but can we still put that in a kind of category to show expenses for elections and versus her budget?
We are doing that moving forward, and we'll show you that in just a few minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. This just needed to be corrected, and we're correcting it.
Yes. Okay. Correct.
Okay.
Page 2. That's our building and facilities. This is where it gets exciting. Go towards the middle, you see Department 1500 mechanical maintenance. Our estimate is $2,585,658 on a budget of $1,814,118, or estimation of $771,000 over budget. And that's one we mentioned that the city decided to change how they read our meters coming into our gas downstairs, and right now, we're estimating around 750 or more over budget, but the last few months, that may end up being higher. And I know the judge has sent a letter to the city saying we're going to be challenging this when we have some.
Are you in the maintenance department?
Pardon?
Are you in the maintenance department?
It's our building maintenance where our cost for our utilities comes in, are both the gas, electric, water, and wastewater.
The mechanical maintenance?
Correct. Correct.
Let me talk about this a minute. For a number of months, we've been getting a huge gas bill from the city. And we have, working with the auditor's office and Glenn and everybody else, we've been trying to monitor what the hell's going on. Last month, it was $100,000 or something. So we've gotten our outside people. We hired an outside engineer to come in and evaluate this. We think it's in the meter. It's taken about 4 months to figure out it's a faulty, we think it's a faulty meter. And it's a faulty meter by a bunch. The estimate for the outside third-party engineer is we ought to be paying no more than about $48,000 a month for gas here, and we've been paying over $100,000. And we've been trying to figure it all out. Tell me about it, all this stuff.
It's not cold here.
So what we've done is we've installed a parallel meter next to the city's meter, and we're monitoring this. And I've written the city manager a letter and said, this is wrong, and if it comes out to be really wrong, we're going to come back and take retribution against the city, because this is a lot of money. Until we can prove it and figure out where we are, this is what we are, and you'll see in our budget going forward, we're going to have a number, because if the gas bill really is what they say it is, we got a problem, because we're way off the budget. But surely we're wrong. Surely they're wrong. I got you. Surely they're wrong. But we have to plan for the worst case scenario, and right now, that's where we are upside down, and we have sent a letter to the city manager and said, this is wrong. We're not, we need some help. And so that's where we are.
Can't we just request they come put a new meter in?
Well, yeah.
If I was a homeowner, I would.
Yeah, but he's trying to test it, I think. I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to prove that it's a
Yeah,
faulty
so we
meter.
put our own meter next
Still
to
want to go
this.
back and get the money we
Yeah,
overpaid.
and so we think we're hundreds of thousands of dollars overpaid.
It may have been overpaying for years.
Oh, all this year for sure.
Yeah,
Sure, yes.
Maybe past years.
Well, we're
Commissioner, the huge jump started this year,
in February.
and their answer to that is that they were reading the meters wrong in the past, And so
Not now.
I don't believe we were
Now, but in the past.
overpaying 2 years ago.
In the prior
Last year.
years, my staff, we looked over the numbers, and we were averaging anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 to $18,000, which is
Yeah,
about what
yeah.
the engineer was saying our costs should be.
Yep.
Depending on the time of the year. When we saw this coming up, and it started in September this last year, and in February, we saw that the costs were 5 times the rate, was from 20 to 90. So we got alarmed, so we sent out some notices to a few departments, and that's kind of where we are now. And as my staff has been telling me, there's been 1 or 2 months that the value has been $120,000.
Do they read our meters manually or?
Monthly,
And
I mean, do they have a person that comes read it, or they?
I don't know. I don't know that.
I think they read it. I think they manually read it, and what they were saying, they told my staff. I don't know if they told engineering stuff, is that they read the decimal point in the wrong place. So they moved the decimal point 1 spot over, which now is a 6-digit number instead of 5-digit number, and that's why the increase was.
And did we ever check see if there was a gas leak? I mean, I know that's got to be something that would come out, but I mean, there wasn't anything like that, right? None of our,
I'm pretty sure our staff. I'm pretty sure Glenn
Yeah.
saw it, they would have known
Okay.
of a gas leak.
no, I get
be
it.
blowing up.
We smell it somewhere.
But anyway, it's a huge number, and we are working it, and it is what it is right now, but that's where we are.
And, Y'all already answered a couple of questions I had on this. One, we found it in a particular month. Was there a particular month?
Yeah.
Who's kind of monitoring it? So I guess Dale or someone noticed that jump. basically
My
from
AP
one
staff will
month to-
tell me when they see all of a sudden a bill comes in 4, 5, 6 times of the normal fee, they'll, hey, what's going on? I go, well, let's notify the departments that this is for, and let's get this done. I know the same situation came up on coastal parks. We had to notify them because their water bills started coming in higher, and I think they're addressing that.
And so my concern would be, hopefully they are wrong, but even if they weren't, saying if they're actually correct, I mean, we're a big customer. I mean, I'm sure there's other big customers that, you plan out your budget, you expect at least a courtesy if there's something wrong, that you just don't send a bill, but some sort of notification, and try to work with us on that, because, I mean, we're all trying to deal with budgets, we're all trying to deal with tax dollars responsibly, but just to come and send us a bill and say, oh, well, we were wrong all along, okay, well, good for you, but bad for us, because now we haven't planned accordingly, because your information we were getting all along was wrong. So I would just hope, Judge, that if whenever this is worked out, that even if it, and I hope that it is found in our favor, but even if it's not, that we work out something, that if something like this comes from the city or any kind of entity that we have to pay a bill on, any kind of utility or anything, that we would get a heads up, at least to try to work that into place, because I think that's irresponsible to expect us to take on that big of a hit from one month to the next, 5 or 6 times, as Dale said. That's big, and so hopefully that number is off. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Going through the rest of the ones, you'll see a small little increase in the Calderon building, which was expected. 1517, which is building superintendents. Last fiscal year, we moved all of our repairs and maintenance for most of the buildings to building superintendent. The 4 at the bottom, we did not move those, so those are in Robstown, and it was easier to maintain those there. But for this particular year and last fiscal year, we've been needing to use 100% of the repair and maintenance for these buildings, and this last year we had to go slightly over, so that's why they're $34,000, $244 over budget. And when we start talking about budget information, we'll probably be raising the repair and maintenance for the buildings up this. And most of the cost has been replacing heating and air conditioning, ventilation in most of the buildings, as well as repair of roof repairs and other repairs that's coming up. Some of our buildings are getting old, and this is kind of a normal trend. At the very bottom, you'll see our estimate for building and facilities is $8,849,064 on a budget of $8,297,955, or over budget of $551,109. Any questions on buildings and facilities?
Man, that makes a big difference. I mean, everybody else really ran pretty tight. Not everybody, but 80% of people ran pretty tight on their stuff, and then you get that big one hickey, and that makes your budget
Yes, sir.
go down the toilet.
So going back, I guess,
Yeah.
once again, Agua Dulce, David Berlanga Senior Building and the Senior Community Center buildings, so those are separate, they're different codes. Why is that? You may have explained that to me before.
Well, they're not necessarily different codes. It's a while back. It was easier for the Edward and before you as Commissioner Solis on maintaining and sometimes it's hard to get people from the courthouse out to those buildings to do some repairs. It was easier just to handle the repair costs there. So with talking with prior commissioner and Edward and the departments out there, it was easier to maintain the revenue of the expense for the repairs and maintenance at those buildings. So that's why we kept them there, and you'll see those stayed. They're under budget. So and that's why we left it there, because they said it was easier for them to not have to call Glenn and get money for this to get repairs. So it was easier to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
On page 3, your top of the line is your capital outlay. That's where we buy our vehicles, our computer equipments, office furniture that is above certain levels, any other items that are considered a taggable item. We're estimating $723,656, or $344 under budget. Now we go to administration of justice. That's your county courts, your district courts, your district clerk, your juvenile departments, your JPs. first one we saw was slightly over is County Court Law 5. There've been a tendency of just the way this functions is being over budget of $42,404. We've been talking with the 105th District Court. There's $76,458. In the 319th, based on budget, and this is mostly their budget is basically because of court-appointed attorneys, is $98,387,000 over budget. Now you see some of them are very, very, very promising. The district clerk jury administration, that's where we see our costs for our jury, and this is something that Commissioner Posey would be excited to see. We're $438 under budget because our estimated cost for the jury expense has gone down by at least $300,000. And it's very promising, and once all the courts get involved with this, that probably will go down even more than that. So, and that's very, very promising.
So what's the net? I was trying to go back, because that's really cool. The net reimbursement's going to go down by $70,000, but the
Costs will go down to $300,000, yes.
yeah, so the net's about a $300,000 gain for the county potentially?
About that, yes.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty awesome.
So that was really, truly, not really a full year.
Correct. They started middle, 1 or 2 months in the year, and we've already seen that much of a savings, and now we're going to be a full fiscal year, and more courts are getting involved, and we think that's going to be even a bigger savings to the county.
You need it.
And with the Board of Judges meeting we've been going to, more people are starting to go online and start registering online, so we're having fewer people downstairs, which is promising, because if they don't come downstairs, we have to pay them, and we tell them online that they're needed, and they show up, and it's been very good according to what the judges have been saying. On page 4, we continue administration of justice. The only one department is JP13. They're over a budget of $28,801. We've been talking with them, and they're aware of the situation and are currently working on it. So for total administration of justice, we're estimating $20,951,079 on a $22,385,000 budget, or under budget of $1,434,000, which is very, very, very promising.
Gail?
Yes, sir.
So these overages that we're seeing for these district court at law, and JP, are these all due to court-appointed attorneys?
The district courts and county courts, yes. For the justice of the peace, it's other just, some of them had to bring in temporary services because of certain items. I think JP13 had to bring some temporary staff in for some vacancies they might have had, so they had costs that they weren't expecting. But your JPs usually don't have court-appointed attorneys. So those are routine costs that we looked into, and we've spoken with the judge, and we're working on the numbers.
And let me
know they're going to have court-appointed attorneys now, right?
They will, yeah.
The JPs.
Yeah, they will.
New law.
Okay,
That's right,
they had some costs there.
And so,
And, excuse me, Joe, I'm sorry.
That's going to cost.
No, I was just going to say, and the city has figured out that we get to pay for court-appointed attorneys as well.
That's going to kill us.
so my question, I guess, and some of the items are bigger for the district courts, but like the Court at Law 5, Judge Chesney, I mean, you used to be there, so that number you can't really predict, right? In Court 5? I mean, it just depends on what kind of case it is, what comes forward. I mean, that's really...
You can get a pretty good idea. You can run your 3-year averages, and, you can, I mean, certainly there could be some huge anomaly, just like in any court, but you can budget. And I think McCoy's
He's done a good
pretty
job.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
He's had a lot of
He's had more removals. If he was, I mean,
BS cases.
yeah, he's had a lot more removals this year, so.
Yeah. A lot of them. And
he's-
I'll tell you,
But he's still
the
operating.
judge comes in every 2 or 3 months and sits down with us, and we really look at this, because he's very, very, very aware of what he needs to do, and Brent was, Tim is, we really appreciate that.
Well, he's, if I remember the last email or the conversation or something, he said that he had a bunch more removals, but he was still operating pretty darn close to within his budget, even with a significant amount more removals, so.
And also I think for County Court Law 5, I think this the last year, because they had that situation come up with the juveniles, we increased the hours for their associate to 25 hours per week.
That's right, we had
for
the associate
temporary,
judge
for
there,
temporary
yeah.
services. So that's the additional cost for that you're seeing.
Okay, thank you.
Our law enforcement and corrections, that's your district attorney, your sheriff, your jail, and all 5 of your constables. The one that's screaming out is our jail, and that's mostly overtime cost. We're estimating $15,112,000 on a $14,619,000 budget as a minus $492,000 negative.
And Dale, isn't that, we're still back in the same slot where they can't fill slots, right? Isn't that a big part of this overtime?
Well, that's part of it. They actually, last time the judge and I met with the sheriff, he had only like 10 spots open. He was just
10 spots is still, when you're saying only 10, I know that's a big accomplishment, but I'm thinking,
While he was about 38.
no, but I'm saying, isn't that
200,
why?
You know,
That's the main cause of his overtime, and truthfully, and Steve and I will talk about this when we get to the budget item, we've never really budgeted too much on overtime, just because we knew that his vacancies would offset some of the costs, and we didn't want to inflate the costs, and I know part of the discussion later on, we'll factor that into to count to stop this from happening, but that is true.
I mean, I go back to the same conversation I had before on that. I mean, we've got to do something to either advertise these positions better or something, because there are people who need jobs. I get that being a jailer is a real thankless kind of job, but it's a job, and it pays, and it has benefits, and it's a job. And if you don't have a job, there's got to be people out there to. It's better than nothing.
He does have a lot of
He did do a large advertising campaign with the billboards and all that, and it was very successful. He went from like 20, almost 30 short to now only 10 or 12, which is probably better than it's been in a couple of years.
But we are going to deal with that in our budget list.
So for total law enforcement, we're estimating about a $351,000 over budget, even with under budget, even with the over budget of the jail. We see this, the DA and the other ones have kind of carried some of the cost. Page 5 starts with the social services. Most of them are doing very, very well. $104,000 under budget for the senior community services. $90,000 under budget for social services direct. Total for the social services is $289,978 under budget, which is very good. Our health and safety and sanitation, which is your emergency services, emergency management, 911, environmental enforcement and animal control, they're also all under budget. Total for that is $153,481 under budget. For our agricultural education, which is your ag department, your family and consumer sciences, as well as your county library, they're also all three under budget. Total of $51,351. So total appropriations before transfers, we're estimating $80,008,488 of expense on a budget of $85,459,855, or under budget of $5,451,367. Any questions before I go to transfers?
That is a really important.
Yes.
what's that percentage, Dale? 94,
95.
95?
That's what we operate this county on, is being that much under budget on expenses.
Thanks. I mean, and I think that's a real testament to the work this court has done, the work that every elected official and department head has done to watch their dollars, the budget office. I mean, this is a total team effort, and this is not easy to do, and I would bet there aren't that many counties, maybe or cities, that come in like this. That's pretty impressive, and we've had some big hits that we didn't anticipate. I mean, that mechanical stuff alone, or mechanical engine, or whatever it came in the gas, I mean, that's just staggering for a budget our size. And, it's kind of interesting because people think we're the whole county, right? And then you tell them, well, let's see, the city has about an $800 or $900 million budget, and all in, we have about 100, and they go, what? So, I mean, for that gas bill on the county budget, the size we are, that's a percentage point or two. I mean, that's a big number where, yeah, I mean, that's cranking. So that's a good number, although I get it's not looking that, I mean, it's going to be a little rougher next year to budget because we got some big things coming, but this is impressive and well done, and thanks to all of those people, and again, total team effort on this.
If I might, the court as a whole, we've operated with the premise that vacancies in the budget, when there's a vacancy in the department, we don't allow that department to use those monies for other, transfer those monies to other items. We say that all salary items stay within the salary items, and that's a big part of this float money, but because if we allowed them to move that there, out of the total budget, they'd spend it,
Yeah, we've got several requests every time they come in. They want to use their salary money to cover their costs, and Steve and I get together and no, we're not going to allow them to do this, and without true reason why or emergency situation necessary as well. Talking, yeah.
The only exception is, of course, is the jail. We use that salary that's from the to cover the overtime. So.
Related.
That's a separate thing.
Well, no, it's salary related, though. I mean, it's not being used to purchase a car or something. I mean,
So Dale, our 5.4 million under budget is your projection for the entire budget year of 2015?
Well, that's before transfers.
2016, 2017.
That's before transfers.
Okay, before transfers. You're going to talk about, or somebody's too loud. Yeah, Dale. Yeah.
Now we go to the last page, page 6, and this is where it gets alarming. For transfers, we transfer exactly what was there for all the departments except for the top line. We know we've got a shortcoming in our group health because of some catastrophic injuries and costs that we have coming in. So we're estimating transferring out of the general fund right at $2 million or close to $2 million. So our total appropriations for the year is $91,088,243, or under of $3,451,367. And that's where we kind of eat some of that cost, that savings up, is where we have to cover our funding for our self-insurance fund.
Well, it's better than being 1.6 in the red.
Right. So for estimated actuals, as you'll see, our fund balance ending, as I said earlier in the revenue, our ending fund balance is $18,543,148. Total appropriations for next fiscal year is $109,631,391. As you see, the drop between 15-16 and 16-17 is right at around $3 million. And that's the general fund appropriations for fiscal years 16-17 as estimated. Any questions?
I have a question, and Judge, I know we've kind of talked about it before, but the stadium at the fairgrounds, I mean, that's a responsibility we have still for several more years before we can really have any discussions of what to do with that site. Is that correct? I mean, we're on budget, we're on the bond until what, 20?
With the stadium, yes, the stadium is. We still have the COs out there. I think there were 20-year COs, and that was in 2000.
For our grant year.
Okay.
It opened in 2003. So.
And our operating loss at the fairgrounds is $800,000 every year, down from 1.4 million 10 years ago.
I mean, Edward and that group, they're doing all they can and trying to keep it filled and trying to bring in people and really seeing a potential tie-in with that area now with the outlets and everything else, the new improved library as they're just moving along. And I just think that, there's some promising discussions or suggestions out there what to do, and I know we can't do it, so I just kind of want to remind the public about that it's not that the county doesn't want to move or explore other options, it's just we still have an obligation ourselves for the next several years before we can pay it out and then see what we can do. But a lot of these facilities, they take hits already. I know City of Corpus Christi.
Oh, yeah.
When we were there, we were having to, still talk about American Bank Center as far as operating costs and all of that. So, I mean, this is just a cost that many communities decide to take, and we have that responsibility. So just kind of wanted to put that out there.
That's good.
Okay, we're going to move on to tab 4.
Steve, you're up.